I am very excited about this box right here. I'm Jim. I'm with CGC Sports Illustrated. This is an unboxing video of some graded magazines that I just got back from CGC. It's a big box, but there's only 5 slabs in here, so kind of weird. Not sure why they sent the big box. But some very cool issues in here. One, for those of you who don't know the rules, I know exactly what these issues are, but I don't know the grades. So you get my first reaction here on this video. One of these issues, I kind of feel like I have to apologize for almost, because I've had so many of them graded recently, and I've got more coming from CGC. But it's an iconic issue, and so, you know, that's not as big a deal. But you'll see one that you've seen many, many times before. But a lot of these you probably haven't seen a lot. In fact, three out of the 5 I've never owned before. So we got some really interesting new ones coming up in here that should be very, very interesting. While I'm kind of unboxing this here, quick thing, I get a question that I get asked a lot. Where do I buy my raw issues, and where do I mostly buy my graded issues? So 2 things about that. My raw issues. Used to be able to get good ones on eBay, not so much anymore. And if they are up there, you're going to pay a premium price for them. And if you think about it, it makes sense. This hobby is just getting, I'd say like this hobby is probably the bottom of the second. Still very early, certainly growing, but certainly a young hobby. But most of the really good stuff that's available raw on eBay has already been picked up and it isn't available. I mean, there's some exceptions to that. But not so much, and it makes sense. You know, it's like saying, "Hey, how can I find a raw 52 Topps Mickey Mantle on eBay?" Yeah, you're not going to find one, and if you do, it's going to be really, really expensive. Number 2, where do I buy most of my slabbed issues? So most of them that I buy are through my own personal connections. So I have direct private sales. I do buy some off of eBay, but I can tell you that Heritage. So quick backstory on Heritage. Heritage Auctions, HA.com. They've always got graded magazines for sale. I mean, like every single week, there's a nice selection of graded magazines for sale, and it's getting a lot better. It used to be that they were mostly only premium issues. So things that would sell for thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. There's actually a lot more mid-priced and lower-priced issues that are showing up on Heritage. So, and some of them, man, in recent weeks, I've seen some steals. Some really nice Sports Illustrated's going for, you know, couple $100, maybe $300, even some less than $100. So when you're looking for graded issues, eBay has a ton, but don't forget about Heritage Auctions. Okay, 5 slabs in this issue. A great mix. Got some vintage, got some modern, and an SI Presents, which I don't normally get many of those graded. I get some of them graded, but this one was too cool for me to pass up. So let's rock and roll and get to it. You can tell already. I don't know. I always like the ads on the back of the magazines. I just think they're cool, and they give me a little clue as to which, you know, issue this might be. So this is certainly a vintage issue here, and let's take a look at it. Hey, okay, not bad. I was hoping for something. I was hoping for one better than this. That's a bummer. This is man, 8.5 seems aggressive. This is Herb Score. So Herb Score played for the Red Sox. This is his first cover, despite the fact that I requested that they put first Herb Score cover on there. I did not get that request. This came out on May 30th, 1955. So let's go through the pop reports. There's one 9.4. There are now 3 8.5s and some others graded out there. I was really hoping for this to be better. I wanted this to be, I didn't think it would be a 9.4 or better, but I was hoping to get to that 9.0 level. So that it was the second highest graded all by itself. Still the second highest graded, pop 1 of 3, with 3 graded higher. You know, Herb Score, not a Hall of Famer, not an amazing player. I mean, he was a 2-time All-Star. He was the Rookie of the Year. Probably better known, and this is really why I got this. I'm sorry, he played for the Cleveland Indians, not the Red Sox. This is probably, he's better known for what he did after his playing career, because he was the play-by-play announcer for the Cleveland Indians for 34 years. So some players, you know, have a good career, but they kind of get better known and become more collectible because they do play-by-play. Bob Uecker's probably the most famous one. Ron Santo for the Chicago Cubs. Herb Score was another one. Good player, Not a great player, but a great broadcaster and play-by-play for the Indians for 34 years. So this is a pretty decent one. Herb score, first Sports Illustrated from 1955, graded at 8.5. That's a tough grade. That's a tough grade. That one kind of annoys me a little bit. Okay, next up. Move forward. Not going to get bogged down in what could have been. Okay. Interesting. Another clearly vintage issue. The new Dodge flashes ahead in 1955. So this is a 55 Dodge on the back of that. So it's obviously a issue from 1955. Let's see what we got. See, this one to me, again, seems too aggressive on the grade. This is the second Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. This came out on February 21st, 1955. Betty DiBagano is who's on the cover there. Did some research on her. It looks like this is like the only thing that she ever did as far as public modeling or anything in the public goes. Let's go through the pop reports on this. There's one 9.2. There are two 9.0s. There's now one 8.5. So let's talk about swimsuit issues, especially these early ones. So there's a little bit of a debate in the hobby as to whether or not technically this is a swimsuit issue. So Sports Illustrated had swimsuit models on the cover in 54, 55, and 57. But it wasn't a typical swimsuit issue where there were all sorts of swimsuit models and that sort of stuff on the interior pages. The rest of the magazine was just kind of like a regular magazine that week. So there's a bit of debate in the hobby as to whether or not the issues from 54, 55, and 57 are really swimsuit issues. I won't get into whether or not, to me it really doesn't matter. I just think it's a cool issue. Then, so after they did the issue in 57, there were no swimsuit issues until 1964 when what we know a swimsuit issue came to be. So in 1964 was the first true swimsuit issue where they had a model on the cover and then there were tons of pictures of swimsuit models on the interior. And then Sports Illustrated has done its famous swimsuit issue every year since 1964. So coming up on, almost 60 years that they've been doing that. So I had projected this at a 9.0. Again. Oh, okay. Okay, I see the problem. Let's take a look at it. So that's obviously not supposed to be white, and that's not supposed to be white. That's supposed to be blue. I've got some chunks out of the spine. Okay, that's a fair grade. So fair to CGC. Those are my flaws there, all on the back. Keep in mind, front cover is important. Back cover is just as important. The interior pages matter. Now, from what I've been told from CGC, it's not as important as the cover and the front cover and the back cover, but the interior pages matter. So if you've got staining on the interior pages, if you've got tears, rips, things cut out of it, that sort of stuff's going to kill your grade. So the interior pages matter, the back matters as well. 8.5, fair grade. Bummer, but a fair grade on that one. Okay. I swear there's some modern issues in here. I can tell that this is another vintage issue. Again, I've said this a lot lately. If you are expert level in this hobby, you know what this issue is just by this back cover. This is a famous, iconic issue. Fingers crossed. 8.5 Herb score. 8.5 second swimsuit issue. I need something to pop here. That did not do it. That did not do it. 9.2, iconic, first Sports Illustrated issue ever. And I don't think I've ever, give me a second here. I don't think I've ever told the story about this issue, so this will be a good opportunity. Okay, first, let me get through the particulars. First Sports Illustrated issue ever came out on August 16th, 1954. That's Eddie Matthews on the cover, iconic issue. Let's go through the pop reports, and then you'll understand, the story will make a little bit more sense. So this is the single most graded issue that I'm aware of. I think there are almost 500 copies of this one graded. There are 75 9.8s. There are 128 9.2s. There are 91 9.4s. I projected this at a 9.4, so kind of a bummer for me that this came in at 9.2. Those are huge numbers. Huge numbers, especially for an issue from 1954. So you may be sitting here going, geez, Michael Jordan's first cover came out in 1983. There are no 9.8s and there's one 9.6. And there's a lot of modern issues or more modern issues where that's the case. How the heck are there 75 9.8s of an issue that's almost 70 years old? Well, here's the story behind that. So when Sports Illustrated came out with this in 1954, they sold a bunch of these, but they printed a lot more than what they ended up selling. And what happened was they sat in a warehouse at Sports Illustrated for years, 40, 50 years. And someone at Sports Illustrated had the idea of said, okay, we've got all these issues in our warehouse. And it's the first issue. That's kind of cool. I bet we could make a lot of money if we put them in a fancy leather binder with a certificate of authenticity and sold them to the public as collectibles. And that's exactly what they did. They did it during several occasions in the 90s. And then I think they did it in the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002. Most of them are in like these red leather binders. There's a handful out there that are in black leather binders. And they sold them to the public for like $300, $400, $500. The price point changed a little bit over the years. So it's kind of a barn find issue to a degree where you've got these vintage issues that were uncirculated, never in the public, sat in a warehouse, then Sports Illustrated released them to the public as a collectible. So there's a ton of them out there in the hobby. You can typically see these for sale on eBay anywhere from $400 or $500 all the way up over well over $1,000 raw and in those collectible binders. But that's the story, and that's the reason why there are so many of these in the population in such great grades. Now, let's talk about how that's affected pricing over time. So this, 2 years ago, you could have gotten one of these at 9.8 for about $3,000. They were selling all day for $3,000. And like everything else in collectibles in this hobby, prices started going up. And I'd say probably earlier this year, they sold regularly for about $10,000. And then things started to soften a little bit. So I think this is one of the issues where so far, I talk about this a lot, collect these issues because they're really rare, and the pop counts are really low. This is one of the issues where that's not the case. The pop counts have gotten so high that it's gotten the supply and demand in the market for the purchase of these a little bit out of whack. So these are now in 9.8 are selling more for like in the $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 range. So a little bit of softness in there. It's just because there's so many of them out there. However, there's a lot of demand for these because for people that don't collect graded magazines or don't collect graded Sports Illustrateds, because this is the first issue and it's so old from 1954, it appeals to a broader memorabilia and sports memorabilia collector where I may buy, if I'm a sports memorabilia collector, this may be the only graded Sports Illustrated that I'm interested in. And so therefore the demand is higher than most, but the supply is out there significantly. So I wanted to, it was a long story, but I wanted to tell that story about that issue and why the pop counts on it are so high. Okay. 2 left. These are both modern issues. Hoping to pop some good grades. Haven't been thrilled with this box yet. Oh. And I am even less thrilled with that number. Okay, so this is the SI Presents that I talked about in the beginning of the video. And I traditionally, you've heard me say this a lot, they're not as collectible. That's not me. That's the market that says that SI Presents is not as collectible. These are the special commemorative issues. These are not sent to subscribers. They're only available on the newsstand. They produce them whenever they want. Usually when, an NBA championship, they'll, put the Warriors on the cover like they did this year. They do it for Super Bowl and World Series and that sort of stuff. But this is a cool cover, I thought, because that's LeBron James and Jim Brown. Obviously a couple of, iconic Cleveland athletes in a city that doesn't have a whole lot of iconic athletes. So this came out on November 21st, 2007. There is one 9.8. There are several others out there. I projected this at a 9.2, so I was way off. This is there's my problem too. This is a square spine issue, and that brings a whole other host of challenges. There's my problem right there. I don't know how the hell I projected this at a 9.2 because it was never going to get it with that spine problem at the bottom. So it's a square spine issue, presents a whole other host of challenges when it comes to grading and pressing and condition and all that sort of stuff. But had to have this one. I mean, Jim Brown and LeBron on the same cover. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, last one. Last one. Need this one to save the box, and it might. That's some packing slip. This is the one that I apologize for at the beginning of the video. You've seen a lot of these in my unboxing videos. You're going to see a lot more. It's a big-time issue in our hobby, and I'm hoping for a big-time grade. Hoping for a big-time grade. What, man, yeah, need a big-time grade on this one. Oh! Oh! Okay, so there's a lot going on here. I'm sure that you can see that I'm normally Gretzky first cover. I'm 8.0, sure, all day long. But you probably didn't see subscription edition. It's been a while since I've had one of these happen to me. Let's talk about it. So I only collect newsstand editions. I don't collect subscription editions. I've done a ton of videos on that. If you want to know why and all the particulars, go back and watch those videos. I've said this before. You are never 100% sure for vintage issues. Well, let's talk about this a little bit. Okay, so subscription editions. They put a mailing label on here for years. In the mid-90s, and it didn't happen like overnight. They went back and forth for a while. Sports Illustrated moved to what's called the white box. So there's a white box on the cover. It's actually part of the cover. It's not a label that's put on there. There's a white box on the cover, and then they would print the address on that. So once we got into the white box era, it was clear what's a subscription issue and what's not a subscription issue. But before the white box era, when they would, stick mailing labels on the front of them, I've always talked about this, that you're never 100% certain that you've got a newsstand until it comes back from CGC. And that's what just happened to me. So I do not see any glue residue or anything that would indicate that there was ever a mailing label on here. But CGC has, they use some advanced techniques to kind of spot mailing labels and glue residue and ink removal and all that sort of stuff. And obviously, there was some of that on there. So that's why this is labeled as subscription edition, because at some point in time, this had a mailing label on it and it came off and it got into my hands. And despite me looking at it very closely, it came back as a subscription edition. So always keep that in mind. If you're buying raw issues, even if you're buying them in person, but certainly if you're buying them online, on eBay and that sort of stuff, you never know with 100% certainty until it comes back from CGC whether or not it's newsstand. And this one fooled me. And it's a bummer because I would love to have another 8.0 Gretzky first cover in newsstand, but that's just not the case because as you can see, it's a subscription issue and it says subscription edition right there in an 8.0. So you are always taking a risk when you buy an issue that you think is newsstand that happened before the white box era. Be careful. I've seen people pay literally thousands of dollars for raw issues on eBay. I paid for this one. I probably bought it off of eBay. And I probably paid over $100 for it. Maybe even a lot more than $100. Yet here I am now stuck with a stinking subscription edition. So this box was a total bust. I've had some really good unboxing videos recently, and let's hope that this is not the start of another summer slump like I had earlier this year. Let's recap. I had the Herb Score first cover at 8.5, second swimsuit issue at 8.5, first Sports Illustrated from 1954 at 9.2. I had the LeBron Jim Brown Sports Illustrated Presents at 8.5, and then we finish it up with this turd. A subscription edition Gretzky first cover from 1981 that I thought was a newsstand edition. So total bummer. Got to get better. Hey, next one's got to be better. This box stank. Next one's got to be better. Really appreciate you watching. Comment, like, and subscribe here on YouTube and follow me on social media. Same username everywhere. CGC Sports Illustrated. Thanks for watching.